Oh, yep. Sorry, we're live. Oh, good. I missed the countdown. You didn't say 5 on the hands. You know what? Producer Tyler, Jordan always says 5 on the hands.
So producer
there
Tyler
we go.
fired here.
Yeah, producer Tyler, make sure my mic sounds good. Let's not lose sound. It's been one hell of a day for Tyler. We're gonna pour one out for Tyler. He's gonna go to bed after this one. Wink, wink, nod, nod. What do you got? We've got a new pairing here. We have Nick joining your old pal here as we get ready for a little Sunday night football. I have been doing nothing but content all day. My wife keeps texting me. I'm gonna go pick her up at the airport in about an hour and a half. It's a fun day. Damn it. It's a fun day. The dog got me up at 5:30 because that's the time she gets up when my wife's home. So glorious. How's your day, Nick?
It was going pretty well until about like 5 minutes into Sunday's games when Tua got hurt, and then after that, it was just all sadness. But it's great to be here, though. Going to have a great time tonight.
Yes, we are looking forward to this. We have a nice game here, 54, 55 point total, depending on where you are looking. We have seen this matchup once each of the last 3 years. We have Lamar Jackson going against Patrick Mahomes. These guys each have an MVP. They've put up some jaw-dropping numbers across the board. And in the 3 meetings so far, well, one guy has won all 3 and the other guy has lost them all. That would be Lamar Jackson, has not won. Now, to be fair, that was one each of the last 3 years. So he has progressed and gotten much, much better, especially in the passing game. So we can't really look at that from history. Plus, both defenses have changed dramatically in that time frame. Kansas City's has gotten worse. Baltimore's has gotten a little. Well, they're not quite as stellar. They're missing a couple guys tonight in their defensive backfield. Any notes or highlights? None of the inactives really surprised us. Devin Duvernay is active, and Marquise Brown is also active. They had groin and ankle injuries, respectively, limited in a practice on Friday, but it sounds like they're a full go. Any hesitation there on those?
No, nothing really. The biggest hesitation from me is just trying to figure out what's going to happen in this game, if I'm being honest with you, because everything inside of me tells me that the Chiefs are going to win. But for some reason, I feel like it's finally the time for Lamar to get his 1 win over Patrick Mahomes.
Well, we shall see. That's the beauty of all of this. We've got, that's why they play the games. What we thought was going to be a dog of a game on Thursday night turned out to be a really fun one. We had the overtime game on Monday night, both of which I missed the end because I went to bed because I'm old, and it's these days start awfully early and go pretty late. But I'm going to try to stay up and watch this one, or at least listen to part of it on the ride to the airport to get my wife. So the thing to start off with here at the top, we're going to talk a little bit about strategy. So when we have Lamar Jackson on a showdown slate, he generally is going to end up being in 90 to 95% of all lineups. And that will be either as the captain or the MVP or on Yahoo, the superstar, whatever the multiplier is. He will be between that and the flex position. He'll be on about 90, 95% of all lineups. Patrick Mahomes ends up on quite a few himself, not to that degree, but the interesting thing that we're seeing across the board is the pricing of what they've done with Travis Kelsey, with Tyreek Hill, and then on different sites, what they're doing with the Baltimore backfield mess. So we're going to break all of this down here for you. There's some interesting decision points. On Yahoo, you have Patrick Mahomes at 39. You have Lamar at 30. And then Tyreek and Kelsey, one's 30 and one's 34. I'm going off memory here. By the way, if you haven't played over at Yahoo, $100,000 showdown contest tonight. Holy cow. Check that one out. We'll talk a little bit of prize picks, etc. But let's get into the game here. Start us off with Patrick Mahomes. Let me look at my notes here so I can set you up with some fun stuff. There have just been some amazing numbers here for Mahomes. He actually, let me see, in his career is averaging ungodly numbers. He's averaging through 47 games. He's averaging 300, going off memory, 308 yards, passing yards per game, 2.49 touchdowns per game, 2.3 combined sacks, interceptions, and fumbles. So he is truly a wizard. I don't have anything else to say. Can we bestow a higher honor for Patrick Mahomes? He's revolutionizing the position. Nick, take it away.
Oh yeah, I got a good tidbit of information about him. Did you know his dad played baseball? They talk about that during every game. He also played baseball, but the most interesting thing about Patrick Mahomes to me had to have been last week's game up against the Browns. Now, we all know that you could just get up and go to the bathroom, and then out of nowhere, the Chiefs have scored 3 touchdowns, but it seemed as though the Browns were potentially going to beat them last week, at least in my opinion. I thought maybe the Browns were going to be able to do something there, and then Patrick Mahomes, as always, has a absolutely humongous game. He threw 337 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in that game, 0 INTs. So Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter who he's playing against. It doesn't matter what the defense is, except for against in the Super Bowl up against the Bucks. Patrick Mahomes has basically been unstoppable in every single game of his career. This is off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he has not lost in the month of September in his entire career. That's just how good he is. I believe that he's obviously going to be good again tonight, regardless of how good or bad you believe the Baltimore Ravens defense is. They looked really good at the beginning of the game up against the Raiders, and then a little bit into the game, obviously, we saw things start to get a little bit dicey all the way through the end of the game. But I think Patrick Mahomes is in for a big game, regardless of his pricing, but he's not a guy that I'm necessarily looking to play in the captain spot tonight.
All right, and we'll break down strategy and all of that stuff as we go through, but we'll throw some call outs there. This is going to be one I was messing around with some rules. I thought about making one where I have to have both of those guys on my lineup. Now, the interesting thing with them is I think we might be better off with both of them in the flex or the utility, particularly on DraftKings, and then working through some of the pass catchers for the full PPR up there at the captain spot. There's a couple cheapies on each of the sites that we'll talk about that will provide some flexibility. And we know that on DK, when you get those guys below $500, which is incredibly low, the floor is 200, and they have their 50% multiplier on the salary and the points. FanDuel, I think the floor is still 5,000. Most of their players that they think are going to play in the game are like 5,500 or 6,000 or 7,000. Yeah. And then on Yahoo, it's kind of a mixed bag. Their minimum is 10, but their maximum tonight is 39 for Patrick Mahomes. It's kind of interesting here. So looking here at Mahomes, is there any weakness, any concern that you have with him? He's essentially matchup proof. He's a touchdown genius. He's a wizard. He throws no-look passes in football. Who knew that was a thing? Anything you want to mention before we move on to Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Yeah, in the NFL, at least for when you're talking about daily fantasy football, there's a couple of guys that are it's completely matchup proof. You get Christian McCaffrey against any defense, it doesn't matter. The guy's going to dominate, doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I'm sure I could go out there and the guy could get 30 PPR points in a game. Then you have guys like Devontae Adams now, I understand, obviously. He wasn't matchup proof last week, but in most senses, he is. Same thing with Travis Kelsey, and that's because the Kansas City Chiefs offense is so good. Unless Patrick Mahomes himself was to get hurt, knock on wood, obviously, there seems to be no way that, at least in my opinion, he could have a bad game here unless everything falls apart, which is very unlikely.
All right, let's move along we're going to go position by position, and we'll cover the Chiefs, and we'll hit over here on the Ravens. Getting back to my note sheet here. I wrote enough articles and content on this. Oh, by the way, we have 7 free articles on the homepage covering in some form or fashion this game tonight, be it with the Awesemo odds betting. We've got 2 different Yahoo articles. We have a strategy article put out there by Terry. You've got the Matt Savoca breakdown on all of this, and then I do my usual article where I break down each position, then give you a player pool ranking based upon FanDuel and DraftKings at the end. And again, 2 Yahoo ones because they have $100,000 prize pool out there tonight. So running back, it's kind of interesting. Baltimore was good on Monday Night Football, held the Raiders to 82 rushing yards on 21 carries. They have a top 10 DVOA. We're 1 week into it, but they were pretty solid last year. It's not quite the stout unit that we're used to of years past, but they're definitely, while not uber elite, definitely above average in a team that knows how to stop the run. Clyde Edwards-Helaire last week, he had 47 snaps. Darrell Williams had 14, and then Jerick McKinnon had 4. Edwards-Helaire had 7 total opportunities. I think each of the other guys had 2 or 3 each. So they really didn't get much. Everything's leaning his way. But we do know that Andy Reid likes to get cute with coaching from time to time. Darrell Williams, Jerick McKinnon, those are options. It may not go to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What's the tenuous situation for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Plus, technically, I guess for touchdown equity, he's behind Kelsey, he's behind Hill. He's behind Mahomes. Do we give him fourth overall?
Probably fourth, if I'm being honest with you, because there's also a shot, like you said, Mahomes could run it in over him. I mean, this is a situation that is very, very concerning, at least in my eyes, especially up against the Ravens, because Josh Jacobs got incredibly lucky last week to score 2 touchdowns, especially with that penalty that led them to be able to score the touchdown. Josh Jacobs looked bad. Kenyon Drake did look all right. I'm just worried about Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's usage as a whole in this game. The Chiefs, like you said, they like to get cute. They like to try to get a little fancy there, Andy Reid. And maybe there are other running backs getting touches. So Clyde Edwards-Hilaire is not a guy that I'm 100% keen on playing tonight up against the Ravens. I think that if you're looking to play running backs in this slate, you should probably be looking on the other side of the ball with the Ravens. I'm not sure how confident you can be in Clyde Edwards-Hilaire week in and week out, especially this week up against that tough matchup against the Ravens.
All right. Geez, we got about 450 people here. Hit that like button. Get us up to, let's start easy. We're like 50, 60 now. Let's get up to 120. Get up to 120. We go a little higher than that. We'll start putting some free head-to-heads out there in the, I say free because I'm team free money. I'll put some head-to-heads out there in the DK lobby for you guys. We get reach our next milestone. We'll talk Prize Picks in a minute, but key thing about them is if you sign up at prizepicks.com, you use the promo code Awesemo, they will give you a deposit bonus, match you up to your first $100. That money comes out first when you make your first entries into any of their contests. They basically, you make your own parlay card, 2, 3, 4, or 5 parlay picks on there. You can do it stats. You can do it based on fantasy points. They have first half stats in there. They just launched last week 2 new things. So if you haven't updated your app, which is available in Google Play or in the App Store, they've updated it so you can do same game contests now, like for tonight. And they also have changed it somewhat. So instead of, it was like an all or nothing. You had to get 5 right on your card of 5. They've now changed it to where if you go with the flex option, you can get 3 right. You don't get all your money back, but you get a little cushion. So it's not completely gone. And that's something that you definitely want to check out. But there's different levels. And then depending on what you're picking with the 3, 4, and 5, it'll change for you. But it'll tell you before you submit on all those choices there. So definitely check them out. So that's kind of it for the running back. Receivers, oh, good God, let's just lump Travis Henry, or probably Travis Henry. How many times am I going to do this? We have Derrick Henry. I insist on calling him Travis Henry in my mind. Now we have Travis Kelsey, not to be confused with his brother. Is it Jason Kelsey? We got just, the Eagles. Yeah, everything's all over the place here. So last year, Kelsey was, I don't know, a golden god. Let's just go with that. He essentially was almost the best receiver in the league, not just the best tight end. He had a tight end record 1,416 yards. That was second of everybody in the league. He was 5th overall with 105 receptions, 6th with 145 targets. I believe he had 11 touchdowns. And this just in, what is the age difference between him and Rob Gronkowski? How far apart do you think they are in age?
They're probably only like 3 years apart in age.
Gronkowski is 5 months older. Kelsey is 31. Gronk will be, I think, 32 shortly here.
That is shocking.
Isn't it, though? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So now do we think Gronk's old, dusty, and broken down? Or is Kelsey about to be old, dusty, and broken down? I don't know, but that kind of blew my mind. I looked that up after I saw Gronk had another couple touchdowns today. So take us through those pass catchers. So we didn't even get to Hill. What do you have? 190 some yards last week. I think he only had 1 touchdown or no touchdowns, but he put up like 40 DK points with all of his full PPR. What is not to like about those guys? Do you choose one over the other and then break those down to the also rants there?
All right. So the thing with Travis Kelsey versus Tyreek Hill is every single week, the guy who typically outscores the other is probably going to be the one with that touchdown. Now, Tyreek Hill really does have that game-breaking potential, the slate-breaking potential, where the guy scores 200-plus yards. He scores 2+ touchdowns. And then if you have him in your lineup, you're sitting there pretty. But even when, the craziest part is on most teams, when these one player, like a one guy, has this huge game. He has 200-plus yards. He has a couple of touchdowns. Normally, the rest of the team is bad. But with the Chiefs, it's entirely possible that Tyreek Hill has this big game, as well as Travis Kelsey. Now, tonight, I would personally lean with Travis Kelsey over Tyreek Hill. If you had to, just pick one over the other, their salary on DK, I believe Tyreek Hill is $10,600. And how much is Travis Kelsey? Travis Kelsey is 10,400. So it's basically very close in price. So I would probably lean with Travis Kelsey, even though the $200 isn't necessarily going to get you somewhere. And then with the other wide receivers there, it's a complete and utter dice roll in my mind between Mecole Hardman, Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson. It's really just whoever gets the little leftover crumbs of the team, gets the little couple targets on the team. So I'd probably lean with, if you had to pick one of those guys, it would probably be Mecole Hardman, but he has just never proved at all to me that he is a true guy that is really a part of this team, like that he is the clear number 2 wide receiver there. That's why I say it really is like kind of just a coin flip with those guys.
And then rolling out to the other guys, it's hard to tell. Now, the pricing's going to change on the different sites. You can accept Pringle as a punt option. He's a little bit better on DK compared to Robinson. They're both below Mecole Hardman. FanDuel, they all kind of tighten up a little bit. Not as much PPR really to go around for those on the half PPR scoring. But everybody who has Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback has touchdown equity. So you don't know who it's going to go to, but much like Tom Brady, he's not really going to play favorites. He will do wild things to a variety of his pass catchers. It's just that we know the vast majority of the receptions end up landing on Kelsey and Tyreek Hill for that. Do you have a particular lean on any of the other options there for?
Yeah, like I said, I think Mecole Hardman, but again, he's not, in my opinion, really the certified number 2 wide receiver there. He is the most expensive out of the group, like you said. So if you want to go a little bit cheaper, I think Demarcus Robinson basically has the exact same upside as Mecole Hardman. I just feel like Mecole Hardman is a little bit safer in a sense. But again, it really is just a complete coin flip. I wouldn't be surprised if Byron Pringle was one of the best receivers in this slate at all. Wouldn't surprise me. Same thing goes with Hardman and Robinson. That's the toughest thing about the Chiefs offense is you can be super confident in Kelsey. You can be super confident in Tyreek Hill. You can be super confident in Mahomes. But outside of that, it does get a little bit dicey.
All right, moving along here on their special teams, Kansas City, one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. That's not going to bode well going against Lamar Jackson. And even though they are on running backs 4, 5, and 6, they're still have a decent enough offensive line. One of their, I'm blanking on his name right now, but one of their tackles was inactive tonight. That was not unexpected. This is Kansas City. They're essentially a bottom 3. This season, they were bottom 3 last year against the run. While that may not be the best thing in the world for the Ravens to be down a person, I don't think it's really going to impact them in this particular matchup too adversely. And then because we may only see 25 pass attempts if the Ravens have their way tonight, that's not many opportunities to get interceptions and fumbles and sacks. Makes it a little tough to go to the Chiefs defense. Moving on here to Lamar Jackson. Let's see, back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He's thrown, I don't know, like 62 touchdowns in his last 32 regular season games, whatever. I know he sat out a couple here and there. Just absolutely phenomenal. He's getting a discount on most of the sites compared to Mahomes. I see some people in chatter saying, hey, I'm going to captain Lamar. I'm going to play Holmes, and I'm not going to play Hill and Kelsey. That's the common build, by the way. Don't think you're getting cute on that one. But just know that. But how are you feeling here about Lamar? Is if you're building one lineup, if you're building your 3-man lineup, your cash game lineup, is Lamar on every site the number 1 option?
See, I'm not necessarily sure that he's the number 1 option. I like Lamar Jackson a lot. Obviously, everyone likes Lamar Jackson. He's one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch in the NFL, one of the most interesting quarterbacks. And a lot of people talk about how in DFS and fantasy football, how the rushing quarterbacks, they break the game. And it's entirely true. Lamar Jackson could easily rush for over 100 yards up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and it would not surprise me at all. I don't think Lamar Jackson is necessarily the top option in this slate, but he's obviously one of the top 3, in my opinion.
All right. Getting into the running backs here, and we'll talk a little bit more about Jackson when we start doing some strategy and stuff here. But getting into the running backs here, Le'Veon Bell is not active tonight. Devonta Freeman is active. Trenton Cannon was released. I've lost track of the days. I think Wednesday or so. Yeah. Maybe it was Tuesday. He's now with the 49ers, who are running out of running backs once again already. They're the guy who was the surprise last week got dinged up. Blanking on his name.
Mitchell got hurt, and then Hasty got hurt, and then
I didn't see that.
Got a concussion.
Yeah.
They all got hurt. And then Mitchell came back into the game and then scored a touchdown. That wasn't a touchdown. It was tough being someone who had any of those 49ers running backs today.
Yikes. That just seems to be, I mean, all the way back to the Matt Breidas, the Carlos Hyde. It's just like the 49er running back just always seemingly injured in this. So we have 25-year-old undrafted rookie Tyson Williams, who played from North Carolina, played at North Carolina, played at South Carolina, played at BYU, and then somehow he had a game with North Carolina again last year. I'm not entirely sure how that worked out, but that's what his college football pro reference page says. Nonetheless, he's meandered about, so he is 25. He was not drafted. He is the fourth guy up after Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and Justice Hill were all lost in the preseason. They brought in Latavius Murray. Now, Murray had 10 carries. They both scored a touchdown. Williams had 9 carries. Williams played about 2-1 on the snaps, but now you've got Devonta Freeman active. So Devonta Freeman, I think, may hurt Williams. I don't think he's going to really impact Murray that much. I think Murray is one mental lapse of Williams away from taking over the lead 60% of the role. I like Murray. First off, I like Devonta Freeman on DK where he's incredibly cheap. I wouldn't play him where he's at the minimum on FanDuel or DraftKings or Yahoo at $10. Yeah. It's not worth it. It does not give you enough flexibility, but on DraftKings, it really does. You accept the fact that he may get 1 or 2 carries, 1 or 2 targets. You're okay taking a 0. Which is funny because I've said those exact same words on showdown slates with Devin Duvernay, who had a nice streaking one down the sideline, and Byron Pringle himself actually just saying, we'll take the 0. And then, hey, we lucked out and didn't have to take the 0. What is your read on the running back situation here? Because there's going to be volume, but sliced 3 ways. Oh yeah. And the best runner is the quarterback.
Yeah, I feel like if you ask every single person in the chat, everyone's going to have a slightly varied opinion on this situation. A lot of people will be with Tyson Williams. Tyson Williams looked really, really good at the beginning of the game, but we saw later on in the game, he's missing these blocks, not playing well in the receiving game. I mean, to me, I think that Tyson Williams, like you were talking about, does end up getting the nod to be the lead running back tonight. But to go exactly with what you said, if he messes up just slightly, it seems like he's going to get thrown out of there for Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is in a very interesting spot to have a humongous game. We know how much the Baltimore Ravens run the ball week in and week out. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is going to be taking away some of those touches. Obviously, Lamar Jackson may vulture a touchdown from your running back, but if you're able to figure out, if you're able to decipher which one of these running backs is the guy tonight, you are going to be very excited with them in your lineup. To me, I would definitely lean with Tyson Williams, but he is more expensive, which does also make you kind of want to lean with Latavius Murray. So based upon prices, I would definitely lean with Murray, but overall on the night, I think Williams will be the lead back, and it may take a little bit of a mess up for Latavius to see some serious work tonight.
All right. And then we got a little super chat here from Nick. Nick says, on FanDuel, a 1 lineup build, do you think he needs to play both quarterbacks? My answer to that would be yes. But that is going to be the answer of the vast majority of people. So now we're back in the world of where we have a 90% Lamar Jackson and somewhere around 70%, if not higher, Patrick Mahomes. I think you go that way, but I would maybe say put both of them in flex and then pick a different guy for captain. I would probably go Kelsey and hope the touchdowns are there. If not Kelsey, I would go Hill. You're still not going to be completely unique. You're going to have to do something else, maybe leave some money on the table with your other positions. That would be my take. Do you think if you're just building one lineup, you want both those guys in? And if you want both in, are they flex or is one of them good a captain for you, or multiplier, shall we say?
I think it's very difficult to get both of them in your lineup if you put one of them as the captain, the MVP, because of just how expensive it is. I think that a majority of people are going to have Mahomes.
On FanDuel, there's no multiplier on the salary. Okay. Or Yahoo. That's just a DK thing.
Okay, yeah, my bad. So
Mahomes, don't worry. These sites are popping up everywhere. We have Super Draft and we have Prize Picks. We're going to talk about in a minute here. There's all sorts of site styles. There's something out there for all of us. Find your lane, stay in it, and succeed. So just from a game theory standpoint, just they're all kind of equal. How do you want to do it? It's just the multiplier effect. Because I'm thinking that you're trying to do leverage and you're hoping that I that Lamar, somebody else runs in the touchdowns, I guess, but they're spread out to people. I don't know what plan you hope for tonight.
Yeah, you're almost hoping that like everything goes completely wrong if you don't have both of them in your lineup. You're basically hoping for the complete opposite of what everyone thinks to happen. Now, it's football. It could entirely happen, right? That Mahomes or Lamar Jackson has a bad game, but the odds on that would be very, very low. So I do believe, honestly, in a majority of the lineups I would put out, they would have both Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes in them.
All right, let's get us up to 150 likes. I'm going to drop 10 $1 head-to-heads in there on DraftKings. Let's see what we're going on. Jackson P. I hate when EMAC is on a football show. Wow, you're gonna be sad because we have quite a few more weeks of this. Sunday night, me and you, pal. Me and you. I'm also writing 7 football articles a week. So if you don't like me here, you can also not like me. Just go ahead and click, and then you can close out that tab. But please do click on my articles. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, make sure you hit the like button too, everyone. Even if you dislike it, actually, that helps us out too. So shout out to the 7 dislikes on the stream. Yeah,
get us up to your 150 here. I'll drop those $1 head-to-heads in there for you guys. So you can take my money. There's your best what. Take my money. Talk about lineup construction. That's what we have been doing, Jackson. That's what we have been doing. Wide receivers. Marquise Brown. The ankle concern you at all? Duvernay. A little bit of a groin issue. Sammy Watkins in a remember me situation. I like Sammy Watkins amongst all of them. When I was watching their last game and saw him on the field, and I was just waiting for him to be dinged up because he was all preseason, I said, you know what? He looks pretty good. He is used to playing with multiple quarterbacks, multiple systems. If anybody's going to assimilate this stuff faster than him, I don't know who it is. So I'm comfortable with him sort of being the top guy. That said, if there are 25, maybe 30 passes, what share of the pie is he going to get? We got Mark Andrews out there. How do you want to parse this out? Let's just do all the pass catchers here.
Yeah, now if you look back, I'm almost sure that Mark Andrews up against the Chiefs is just terrible. Now, again, I will pull up the stats to give you the exact, complete stats for that, but I'm pretty sure in all of these games he's played up against the Chiefs, he has not been very good. Sammy Watkins is the king of week 1. Doesn't matter what team he's on. This guy just dominates.
Week 1, week 17, bookend.
Yeah, it's like Deshaun Jackson, too. Obviously, this year he didn't do it, but in the past, Deshaun Jackson is just a guy, you just set him, you throw him in there as your wide receiver, too, and you forget it. The guy dominates every single time. And this is a revenge game, and I'm someone who heavily believes in the revenge game narrative. Now, again, does that mean that it's going to 100% happen? No, but I am a believer in the revenge game. So I like Sammy Watkins a lot tonight. I think Hollywood Brown is a very interesting player because it seems like that guy just can never keep it consistent. It feels like he has that big game and then everyone's screaming hoorah. They think it's going to happen again. And then he disappoints. And then a couple weeks later, he has that big game again. Then maybe he goes on a nice little stretch of 1 or 2 games and then he disappoints again. So it's very difficult to figure out any of these Baltimore wide receivers. But if I was to pick one, Sammy Watkins' price seems relatively nice for tonight. So he would probably be my lean. And I'm going to pull up the Mark Andrews stats right now against the Chiefs because I know it's not good.
All right. While you're doing that, shout out to Chad. I'm feeling the love. Thank you. I will usually reserve that for News God, but he's in there. I see everybody saying we love EMAC. Hey, I work hard to help you guys out. For me, my main focus is doing the content and helping you survive. It's tough out there. The rake doesn't get any lower. Everybody's getting tougher. There are no fish anymore. There are people that haven't quite figured out certain sites or news sites where we can help give you an edge. There are sports that we have projections for at Awesemo that others sites don't, like college football. Some massive screenshots this weekend for that we can help you out with. It's all about finding your edge, having fun, and not having to redeposit. That's the key thing here. If we can keep coming back and not having to hit that redeposit button all the time, that is the way to go. Or finding bonuses like on Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, sign up, make your deposit, and use the promo code Awesemo. They'll match you up to your first $100, and that money will come out first when you make your entries. Did you find the information you were looking for?
No, I cannot find it. I don't know why. I'm just being stupid here, clearly, because it should be very easy to pull up on RotoViz, and I just can't pull it up right now.
All right.
But oh, no, I found it. I got you. Don't worry.
Mark Andrews.
So Mark Andrews, in 3 games, this guy averages 5 targets a game up against the Chiefs for 2 receptions and 12 yards, 12.33 yards. That does not sound very good to me in those 3 games up against the Chiefs. So again, it's not entirely locked and loaded in, right? That's what he's going to do, but it is worrisome that those are his stats per game. Obviously, it's not like his total stats in all those games.
All right. Thank you, Sean V, for letting me know that. Bryson Henry gave us a $2 super chat. It says randomness settings for Showdown on Fantasy Cruncher. So just real quick, a lot of people are new, a lot of people getting in here on Fantasy Cruncher. I did put my $1 head-to-heads there on DK. It is EMAC, username EMAC in the lobby. There's 10 of them. I see 3 of them have gotten snapped up right away. Jump in there quick because people like to take my money. I was 16-2 last Thursday. So just throwing it out there. I believe it was week 1 that I was 2-13. So sometimes it goes the other way. But we just, we have some fun with this. So he's talking about the randomness setting. So there's 2 different settings on randomness there in Fantasy Cruncher. If you have Fantasy Cruncher Pro, basically you set it and it creates a more normalized distribution. It still gives you your parameter range. Let's say you pick 10. What that is saying is it's going to take for each individual crunch, for each individual player in the crunch, it assigns a number plus or minus 10%. So that's standard. For the pro, it'll assign plus or minus 10% if you've put in 10, but it'll keep it closer to the median and get you that bell curve. I usually just throw it in at 20% and let it go. For me, I'm doing enough other settings with uniques, capping my individual ownership percentages, as well as looking at different rules, groupings, etc., that it doesn't seem to matter as much. But if I'm just letting it fly, I'm not too worried about it. I'll just set it at 20% and go from there. But what you need to understand is you then want to look at all the lineups. That's where you hear Josh and Eric and T McBee and all those guys talking about how they build so many more lineups than what they're actually going to take. It puts a lot of crap out there. So if you're not setting a floor for fantasy points, you need to figure out, if you go reverse sort order on what your projected value is, you're going to see some just garbage lineups in there. You don't want those. There are 2 ways to handle that. Those guys do a much more sophisticated way by pulling it out into Excel and doing some stuff. You can play around in it with Fantasy Cruncher just by sorting it. If you set a floor, don't set it too high or it's not going to make enough lineups for you. All these things work in concert with the where you set the player caps, where you set the point floor, and the different rules you set within. You can hamstring yourself real quick if you're trying to run 150. It's only going to put out 20. You're like, well, what the hell's going on? If you got so many things interacting with each other, it's hard to unwind it. Start small, figure out what your style is on that, and then go forth. All right. Defense, Ravens. I already said it. 2.5 combined fumbles, sacks, and picks per game for Mahomes. That's not very many. So let's have some fun here. We're going to kind of look at our player pool at the top. We're going to talk. We've got till 8:20. We're going to have. I'm going to call up some prize picks here. We're going to talk about that, and then we'll talk. We'll take some questions from everybody. So, sort of the grouping here. So, for me, Lamar Jackson going to be number 1. Patrick Mahomes is 2. I'm leaning towards Tyreek Hill. So we were talking. They were asking for some lineup construction strategy. You had said Travis Kelsey is your guy. Is there a particular matchup here? The way the linebackers are going to be covering him, if they're going to roll. I mean, how do you roll coverage to Kelsey when you've got Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman streaking down the sideline? I don't know. I don't want to be the defensive coordinator for this one. There are some times where I really like Kelsey. Today I like Hill. But I haven't dove into all the numbers perhaps as in depth as you, where you give a few more words around that one now that we've collected a few more people watching.
Okay, so for the reason why I kind of like Kelsey a lot this week is, again, it really is like a complete coin flip. But we saw what happened with Waller last week going up against the Chiefs. Now, again, I don't think, or not going up against the Chiefs, going up against the Raiders going up against the Ravens. I don't expect at all for Kelsey to get 20 targets, right? That's about insane numbers. We're not going to. No one sane person is going to tell you that that's what's going to happen tonight. But what I will tell you is that I believe that the Ravens don't play the best up against the tight end. Basically, it's impossible to stop Travis Kelsey anyways. Doesn't matter what kind of defensive matchup you put against him, unless, again, you are the Chiefs going up against the Bucs in the Super Bowl. Then in that case, you can stop everyone, apparently. But I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are going to be able to figure that out. I think Travis Kelsey is the lean here ever so slightly over Tyreek Hill. But again, if you think Tyreek Hill is better than Kelsey, it's like splitting, like it's very, very close in my opinion.
Yeah. And so the perspective of how very, very close it is, I'm pretty sure the way it's working out, if I remember correctly, I probably have Kelsey in my main DK lineup because I didn't quite have enough wiggle room to get to Tyreek Hill. What I will do so I'll run about half my dollars in play are going to be that lineup and the head-to-heads and 3-mans and 50-50s and triple ups. The other half of my lineup, that's where I'll expect to go higher on Tyreek Hill. I feel he has the better ceiling than Kelsey, but on a per game or on an individual game by game basis. But come on, we threw out the bona fides there for Kelsey. He was basically a top 2 receiver in the entire league last year. How can we besmirch that? I don't know, but it feels like we just did it. So that's kind of as I roll down there. I think Devonta Freeman is important on DraftKings. I probably wouldn't play him on the other sites. And then we got Justin Tucker. Did you know that Justin Tucker is the most accurate kicker in league history, making 90.7% of his attempts? However, in his last 49 games, he has just 13 from 50 yards or more. I would have thought that number to be higher. Do you know who number 2 is in all-time field goal accuracy?
Well, since you brought it up, maybe it's Harrison Butker.
It's Harrison Butker. Oh my goodness. What are the odds of this? So he's at 90.3%. He has 14 attempts from 50 plus yards in his last 49 games. So it's kind of interesting there. Tucker, a little bit better on the extra points. I was surprised. I mean, you know, the volume's been there for those guys, and Tucker's been a phenomenal kicker for so long. It's just kind of interesting, but that they're 1 and 2 in NFL history is kind of cool. So we've got those guys there, and then I start to branch out to Sammy Watkins and Latavius Murray. That's my top 10. Anybody feel like they're missing from that top 10? I've sort of put my thumb on the scale for Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, Mecole Hardman, and Tyson Williams. Those are going to be the guys you want to talk about next. Give us. I mean, Latavius Murray, really, I'm putting him in the top 10. We're splitting hairs at this point, but in the grouping, I feel it falls off when we account for price, opportunity, chance of rookie mistakes, etc. How do you feel about sort of our mid-tier players?
I feel pretty confident in a couple of guys. I wish Graham Gano was in this game because apparently that guy is the greatest kicker alive. Maybe not Justin Tucker or Harrison Butker or whoever you might consider to be that. But
he had familiarity kicking in FedEx Field, having started out his career with the Redskins. Oh my God, it's a remember me game, just like you like, even if it was 12 years ago.
Exactly. You love to see that. So a guy that I like a decent amount, I'm feeling pretty strongly that Devin Duvernay, for some reason, something is just reaching out to me that this guy might just have an explosive game. He's so cheap right now, at least on DraftKings, that I feel like at that price point, now, again, you're obviously not hoping for a 0, but there is a chance that he could have a much bigger game. He did look good in the preseason action. He caught 4 of 5 targets for 47 yards up against the Washington football team in week 3 of the preseason. Again, up against the Chiefs. That's far from a preseason game. But I think that he does have a solid chance to get some decent work, especially if Sammy Watkins does what he normally does, even though I like him in this game, which is where he just has that big week 1, and then he's just sleeping until week 17, and then he pops up again.
All right. Malcolm here has a super chat. Says, who for captain and MVP on DK and FanDuel cash? For me, it's going to be Lamar Jackson, because I think he can just hold all those touchdowns close to his vest. Patrick Mahomes would probably be my 3rd or 4th option. I would go with one of the KC pass catchers before that. And I'm looking at my main lineup. I'm literally $100 short from getting Tyreek Hill. So I had to settle for Kelsey. So for those of you that get mad at me, you'll see me in tournaments. I'll have plenty of Tyreek Hill there, but my main lineup is going to be Kelsey. MVP for DK and cash. You're going to let me, just meaning for those of you, then we get a lot of new people on these shows. That just means that you have about 50% of the fields paid out. So a head-to-head, a 50-50, kind of the triple ups, the double ups, the 3-mans, etc., more than just the top 15 or 20% get paid out. That's what a cash game means for those of you that are new.
All right, well, my pick is not going to be this player, but I want to get your thoughts about him, and then we can go into my guy. That's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, again, I've talked about how unconfident I am in him, but when I was looking at the ownership projections, at least on DK, they have him at 9.5%. That seems like if that was to hit, you're going to be rolling in some dough. So what do you think about Clyde Edwards-Helaire? As again, I told you I was not very confident in him, but when you're building a couple of lineups, feels like you almost have to sneak him into one of them.
So I think that's an interesting way. Another thing that you can do, and because I've been doing a lot of these cash games, and I like throwing them out there to make sure you guys get it, because I know you're watching the show. I know you probably read my content, or you've at least heard what I have to say. It's funny how infrequently we all land on the exact same lineup. There's usually something different. The other thing I've learned on this is you kind of, for head-to-heads, you kind of either sweep them all or you lose them all. When I say all, about 80, it's like 70, 80% one way or the other. If you have a lean for someone such as the Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or you're planning on doing some sort of pivot, that is a way to just sweep the board if you're right on that. Now you can still you're not giving up or fading, as they like to say, those other quarterbacks. Just put them in your utility. They're just not getting the multiplier, but they're not going to race ahead of you. And if it ends up being Clyde Edwards-Helaire that ends up with 1 or 2 touchdowns, and let's say Lamar Jackson doesn't rush for one, because guess what? More often than not, he doesn't rush for a touchdown. Shocking as that may be, all of a sudden he could be the lead dog in your tournament, and you're just running ahead of everybody. It's an interesting way to look at it. I've been trying to get more and more into the lineup here, and I watched Adam Scherer do this in NBA playoffs for those, especially in the finals, for those massive games. He would play cash showdown contest, which I thought was just silly. There's enough differentiation within it that you don't duplicate nearly as often as one would think. NASCAR, stuff like that, you do. Golf, you do a lot. There's no multipliers in it. It makes it a little harder. MMA, same thing. You do, because there's no multiplier. The multipliers make things just different enough. Everybody's on the same collective group of players. 2 or 3 points is getting you 20, 30% one direction or the other of your currently winnings. It's exciting. It's frustrating, but it is kind of neat to see how that works out. Captain Duvernay. Oh, the one game where he was like $400 last season when Kyle and I were doing a Sunday show. Yes, not at his price tonight, but I would not do Devonta Freeman. Who's a cheapie captain? Now we're down into our cheapies here. We got 22 minutes left. We're going to talk some prize picks, and and we'll take some more questions. So kind of in our cheapie buckets, they're all over the price points on the different sites. But in this, you have Pringle, Robinson, McKinnon, Darrell Williams. Of those guys, I'd probably leave McKinnon out. Duvernay makes the list. You've got the defenses here. And then it's just a bunch of guys that really, they'll be on the field, but they're not going to be fantasy relevant. That'd be like James Proche. He's, Duvernay's in, so he's not even going to be returning kicks. You have Patrick Ricard, who has moments every now and then as a fullback / defensive lineman who catches the ball every now and then. You've got Blake Bell, the bulldozer, the former quarterback who now plays tight end and does nothing but block. Then you got Oliver, Noah Gray, Eric Thompson, Marcus Kemp. I didn't look to see if they're all active. Those guys I would stay away from. So we're really looking at Pringle, DeMarcus Robinson, Williams, and Duvernay.
Yeah, now Pringle, I thought going into the offseason actually fit the role of what Sammy Watkins did the best. Now, I know that might sound like absurd, but in my mind, that's kind of what I was thinking. And then after week 1, we didn't see too much of Byron Pringle, but I think at his price point, if you're going full on, YOLO type of deal there, I think Byron Pringle actually has a relatively solid chance into doing something in this game. Now, I understand that playing a kicker as the captain may also be stupid, but that's something that I'm not opposed to be doing either, especially if maybe the Baltimore Ravens are struggling to get in the end zone. They get close and Tucker's kicking a bunch of field goals, then Tucker could be worthy of being the captain. Same thing goes with Harrison Butker, but like I was talking about earlier on the video, or not the video, obviously it's a live stream, but earlier on is that Butker is a guy, or the whole Chiefs team, they could score at will. So I don't really expect Butker to have like some huge game-breaking type of scenario here, but I do like Justin Tucker a lot.
Yeah, so I like the kickers a lot of times. These guys are 2 of the greatest of all time. In a game that's going to be more high scoring, we want to think about it. And you're like, well, you know what? If they're mostly getting extra points, that doesn't weight heavily into the scoring, makes it harder for them to be a captain. The other thing you'll hear a lot is people will say, there's never been a captain in the optimal or a kicker in the optimal lineup. That's fine, but they work out if you're playing 3-mans, 10-mans, 20-person leagues, 100-person leagues, not the $1 million Monday night leagues for DK or whatever it is, or 500,000 people in the field, what have you. It can work out for you in the right scenario, the right script. And then we've got fourth quarter and second half contests where kickers actually become more viable, because all of a sudden a field goal's worth half a touchdown, and there may only be 3 total scores in that section of the game. All of a sudden the landscape changes. So these are the fun things we want to tell you guys about. We're talking about all this in Slack. We're going over it as we watch the game. So that's premium opportunity, or premium subscription there. If you guys haven't signed up, you want to just get a weekly pass, you can use the Awesemo NFL Express Pass, $3.95 a week. It does get you access to Slack. It gets you our showdown for the big three for Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night football, showdown projections, as well as the ownership rankings. And then you get all of the tiers contest information. That's something new that we've put out this year, in addition to season long. I think they give you some waiver wire and trade machine or trade chart access for some of the other stuff. So we've added a bunch of stuff to that because we said, hey, we want the casual people to have an opportunity to come in. They, a good chance you can, even if you're only seeing 2 of those games, all of a sudden you're just paying, $2 for each game to get the access. Well worth it. Jump in on there. Yikes. So if you had one fear, who is the player that scares you the most of either he's going to fail you or you don't have him and he's going to rip your heart out and show it to you while it's still beating?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about before with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. How I said that, maybe I'm very confident, you know what, I'll play him in one lineup as the captain. Okay. But what could happen if, it doesn't go his way? There's always a chance that doesn't happen. There's always a chance that Mr. Mahomes himself runs the ball, and there's always a chance that they hand the ball to Tyreek Hill doing something crazy. They hand the ball to these other guys. Or maybe they just don't run the ball at all in the red zone because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 5'7" and can't get into the end zone. So that is all things that are very concerning every single week. The one that will concern me about me not playing them at all is Mark Andrews, because I just talked about those stats, how they are scaring me a lot, about thinking, hey, this guy barely averages any targets. He barely averages receptions up against the Chiefs. But then magically, this is the one game out of the 4 where he plays amazing. And my brain making me not love him this week was just completely off because, as we all know, Mark Andrews is a very talented player, probably the best pass catcher on this team, in my opinion, on the Ravens. So I think Mark Andrews is a solid player, but I am very nervous this game. And I'm very nervous to be wrong about it because I don't have him in a single lineup.
The premium chat says the answer to my question, which player scares you the most? Kawhi Leonard. Hey, well, he's going to be out for part of the season here with that Achilles issue. But we've got basketball right around the corner. We are literally 1 month away from NBA opening night. It is going to be here before you believe it. All right. So are you a wagering man? If you were betting on this game, it's a 3 to 3.5 point favorite here. Well, Tyler, I got to ask a question. I didn't ask Nick what state he was in. And not everybody's in Virginia now. We've only had sports wagering here since 3 weeks before the Super Bowl last year. We haven't even had it a full year here. So I don't remember all the states that have it. Do you dabble? Do you know a guy?
No. I play a lot. Now, we were talking about it in the fantasy football live stream earlier, me and Eitan, and I was talking about how I was 6-0, right? And I give him a pick, and then I'm pretty sure the pick missed because he was like, you got to give me the pick. And I was like, it's going to fail if I give it out, just so you know. And then I give it out, he bets it, and now we both look like idiots here. But it is what it is, 6-1 on the season, not too bad. My guess on this game, again, seems like it's a little too simple that the Chiefs are going to win. Seems a little too simple to the point where my brain wants me to switch. When you feel like the public is just going to be wrong, so you switch, but then you just can't do it. So I would say Chiefs. I think they're -3.5 last time I checked, an hour ago. That would be my lean in this game.
All right.
It's a very square pick, though.
How are you feeling? Well, but it's stuff out. I mean, you watch it every year, and you can have the alternative lines. You can go the money line. You can go with the spread. You can do the in-game wagering. We talk about it a lot. This for basketball. Football's a little bit different. Basketball, kind of a game of runs. All of a sudden, things start going sideways for the team that's supposed to be winning, and you can get them at better odds. So all of a sudden, if Devin Duvernay comes out and returns a kick for a touchdown, all of a sudden, and that's the opener, the Chiefs aren't looking quite as good as they were before. You get a little bit back. So there are many ways you can approach this and look at it. But how are you on the over/under?
What is the over/under total right now?
I want to say it's 55.
That was gonna be my guess. Yeah, 55.5. Now, this is always a game where on paper you think it's going to go over, right? This is 2 of the best offenses in the AFC. Both teams do have solid defenses, though, but that never seems to really matter in this kind of a matchup. Again, I am not someone who will ever bet the under. I'd rather just not bet the game over betting the under, personally. I just think that's a boring way to look at a football game. Now, again, I understand that's not how you make money, right? You bet the money to hit the under, but I don't think this goes under. I would lean on the over in this game. But again, that's also probably a very square pick, as I assume most people have also decided that this game's going over.
All right. Do you ever do any player props or in-game wagers here? Because we've got a couple here on Prize Picks I'm going to throw out there. One is going to be Patrick Mahomes rushing yards, 17.5. I feel like that's a pretty good number. I don't have a good lean on it, but then you're going to ask me, well, what's Lamar Jackson's? Well, his is 71.5. I kind of like the over on that one.
I do too. Lamar is a very interesting player because it wouldn't surprise me at all if he had 120 rushing yards in this game, which may sound crazy, but it's Lamar Jackson. So anything can happen with him. The thing I really liked on Prize Picks is the 317.5 passing yards for Patrick Mahomes. I feel like that goes over in this game relatively easily. The Lamar Jackson passing total in this game for the yards is 223.5, which I wouldn't say is going to go over, but that is one that I feel like they're right on the money there with 223.5. I could really see that going either way.
All right. And for those who are saying, oh, Baltimore's a tough defense and Patrick Mahomes, remember I said at the top of the show, his career average 308 yards per game passing. That's his average. Played all sorts of good defenses in those times. Anything can happen on one day, but that is an impressive career average.
For sure.
All right. Did you see anything on the receiving line that's interested you? I'm trying to call. I have the devil of time. There we go. Because we have NFL DFS projected stats here, so I wanted to call those up. So as one of the things you get here for Awesemo, not only do you get the fantasy points, but we also lift up the hood and say, hey, here's what everybody has: rushing, passing, receiving, targets, carries, attempts, etc. All that fun stuff for that one. So I just want to call up here. I'm gonna flag our Baltimore game here. What do you like for any of the receiving?
Any of the receiving, I'm very interested in. They don't have Latavius Murray, but I think that Tyson Williams, the 8.5, if he's able to start the game and not make some type of crucial mistake, right, where Latavius Murray enters the game, which is a scenario we've talked about, then Tyson Williams could easily 8.5. That's like one catch. So I think 8.5 is a very solid line for Tyson Williams to go over. And the only way it really goes under is if he like botches a block early on in the game and then Harbaugh just takes him out of the game.
All right. So let's see here. So we have projected for passing yards, Mahomes is at 315. We have Lamar Jackson at 214. I think Lamar's career average is somewhere around 189, if I remember correctly. So we're thinking high scoring game. There's going to have to be some back and forth, so that's a pretty high number. I don't really like, I would love to take the under on that number. So that's where you can utilize Odd Shopper. It's an Awesemo sister site here that's related to us, where it puts out all the sports books lines, tells you which price is better, aka the VIG, the vigorish, the fee that you're paying for them to facilitate the bet. It lets you know where the best ones are. You can change your return on investment by 10 to 15% if you just shop the lines, and that is pure profit or not having to redeposit as often. The rushing yards kind of interesting. So we have Lamar Jackson at 62. So Prize Picks has him at 71. Again, this is a median outcome. I'm like you. I'm thinking like 83. Like I'd set it at 82.5.
Yeah.
That's me about where I'd be like, okay, I'll take either side on that at 82.5 for this matchup. If it wasn't the horrible Chiefs defense, even if it was Seattle, I might say, 68.5 feels a little better or something like that. Oh, did Seattle win or lose? Oh, they lost. I'm the Seahawks.
It went to overtime. I know that it ended while we were talking.
They lost by 3.
That's tough to see.
That is. Let's see if we get some questions coming in here. I don't believe you guys. Everybody's talking about Mahomes. Any running backs tonight that you should take? This is from Exotic Angels. I like Latavius Murray. He would be my number 1 running back. My number 2, probably Clyde Edwards-Helaire. My number 3, DK only, and this is for the price saving, Devonta Freeman. I'm willing to accept 3 or less fantasy points. I get that. It's a risky play. I'm going to be looking at a 0 there for a long time, but I also like the rest of my lineup when I put him in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you go with those guys that basically cost you nothing, the rest of your team's going to look very good. And if he gets like 5 points, then you're going to be sitting quite pretty there.
Now, do you ever look at what they call onslaughts, like 4-2 for the DK1 side, or 5-1 on FanDuel? It would be 4-1. Do you ever consider those types of things. That would be like a Lamar Jackson captain and then everybody else Chiefs, coming back the other way. Is that something you consider or look at a lot?
Not really at all, but I do understand why you might want to do it.
Or I should say this, are you a mass multi-entry person? Or are you more of a hand build the script of the game? What do you think a likely outcome is? And then you lovingly craft your lineups.
Yeah, no, the first week of the season, I was just mass entering them, just throwing them all in there. And this week I've been trying to be a little bit more subtle, about my own mind,
selective?
More subtle. Yeah, more selective. Give some nice love to the lineup and then throw it out there and hope that works. Use my own spice in my brain. And I don't know, both of those ways probably work out depending on the game, but I don't have a single lineup tonight where there's just one player on one team. When I was crunching earlier, I did crunch one, and there was a Lamar Jackson in the flex. The rest of the game was the Chiefs, which I thought was interesting, but it is not one that I played.
Okay. All right, I'm just making my last lineup. I'm getting a lot of Byron Pringle and captain.
Love that.
Jerick McKinnon. Well, you know what? This is why we play the game. That is not my main lineup. Happy for me, sad for all of you all. But this is what happens when you don't build out your groups and you delete the wrong thing. So I'm living the high life. So Pat, I'm going to upload this. Patrick Mahomes, 20% captain. Lamar, 20%. Tyreek Hill, 7. Kelsey, 7. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 7. Literally everybody else, 7. I do have a couple kicker captains. I've got Byron Pringle. Just because I saw his 3 lineups, 3 out of the 67. I can live with that. No biggie there. But I do have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are each going to be about 85 to 90% of my lineups. And I have over half my 2/3 of my lineups. It looks like where both of them are on it. So call me the chalk donkey because that's the route I'm taking tonight. But be it.
Yeah, exactly. You can never go wrong with going chalk. Sometimes it ends up going your way.
It all looks good. It's all fun and games until the whistle blows. I mean, God, think about how many things are the Raiders good? How bad is Green Bay considering what happened to Jameis Winston and the world beaters? Do we really know anything? No, I guess not. Can we make some educated guesses? Yes, we absolutely can. Can we mitigate some of our risks and put ourselves into a position to win? Absolutely. And that's mostly what we're trying to do here with Daily Fantasy Sports. That's why at Awesemo we like to say, hey, play a lot of lineups, play a lot of different sports, play a lot of slates. That helps you work the variance into your favor. If you're making the correct decision, the more time you have to make the correct decision while your opponents have to make the incorrect decision, that's when you start to win. That is what is known as the edge, and it is ever elusive and gets smaller every day. So that's why we talk about all of these new sites, the different stuff like Prize Picks. Absolutely a great way. You don't have to play against the Sharks. You don't have to play against anybody with mass multi-entry, the lineup optimizers, whatever. They have currently on their board today, they had offerings in 11 different sports, including esports. We've seen them post highlight. They posted the hot dog eating contest. They're always doing something crazy out there that if you want to choose to put into your card, you can make it, you can find your own edge. This is something that a lot of gamers don't want to do the work for. They've got the steady ones too. So if you're in a state that doesn't have sports gambling, you can do player props on this. You make basically your own parlay card, and they've sort of turned it into a way of that it's legal within Daily Fantasy Sports kind of thing. You're playing against them. They don't have an egregious rake. They're not putting, their lines don't get stale, but they're not the perfect. We went over a whole show on those yesterday where we gave out 17 different opportunities. I think we got 12 of them. That ended up working out of the 17 players we talked about. That's not perfect, but that's enough to keep winning. You hit those in the right combinations, you're not going to have to redeposit. That's the whole key here. Go over there to prizepicks.com, use the promo code Awesemo. When you make your first deposit, they will match you up to $100. You put in 100, they'll give you 100. You put in 20, they'll give you 20. That money comes out first. As soon as you make your first play in your first contest, that money comes out first. We saw Jordan, the producer, was doing that on screen and sharing it with us, and we saw that happen. So a good way to do the stuff over there. We have 5 minutes left. We have producer Tyler. Producer Tyler, I was not looking at the screen. I did see you put it up on the screen, but I didn't see you actually enter the contest. Tyler has left the room.
Yeah, he was sleeping at the wheel, but in reality, he actually wasn't. We just weren't paying attention.
Yes, I have too many other windows open. So let's see. Shell she says, I'm not playing Freeman. I'll take my L's in capital letters, please. I like that. That made me chuckle. Nice one. Demarcus Robinson or Devonta Freeman? Well, if price doesn't matter, you definitely want Demarcus Robinson. He probably will get, half a dozen targets. Are you fading Pringle? I don't think it's the worst case. His price varies across the sites, where Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman all have different flavors of positivity, I guess, of probability of success. Their quarterback is Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes throws touchdowns. That's touchdown equity. They're third or fourth on the pecking order there, but that's still opportunity, because between them, they're going to get a dozen touchdowns this year. Could some of those happen today? Sure, absolutely. We don't know that. Two kickers. Would you ever play two kickers in a lineup? I would.
Sure.
Two best kickers in the history of the game right now? Sure. Why not?
Yeah, my first lineup that I put in has Tucker and Bucker in the same lineup. I'm good with it.
There we go. Those to me feel more like a Thursday night game halfway through the season when everybody's hurt and it's Cleveland or Jaguars or Detroit or some game where it probably is Tennessee without Derrick Henry. It's probably going to be 12-9 or something like that. Those are the slog fests that you play for. Rosso Music says he wants you to know the Ravens are winning tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't bet on them, because whenever someone says something like that, I just hope I'm on the other side,
Andrew Martinez has to play one on FanDuel, Mahomes or Jackson. I would take Jackson every time, because the rushing touchdowns are worth more than passing touchdowns.
That is very true.
Devonta, well, we answered that, Brady. We answered that. Pringle or Duvernay?
Ooh. Are they the same price on any of these places, or is it?
We're just going to assume it's close enough because we have 2 minutes left.
Okay, well, I think, honestly, I would go with Duvernay. Okay. Now, again, it is basically just an upside shot there, but with my thought process on Sammy Watkins potentially playing terrible, maybe Devin Duvernay ends up being good. And with Hollywood Brown's inconsistency, that does open the door for Duvernay to potentially be the number one target in this game on the team. So I'm fine doing that over Pringle, because at least Pringle's like behind the pecking order, behind a bunch of guys on the Chiefs.
Right. That looks like we're almost at lock here. Ricard or Freeman? I'm going to take Freeman.
Yeah. How many points does Ricard get? I don't think I've ever seen Ricard get many points.
I was trying to remember. Did he?
He's probably scored before, obviously, but I'm just saying, on a week-to-week basis.
He also plays on defense. That's what everybody forgets. It's like, yeah, he's like defense/special team line guy. It's
like Taysom Hill. He does it all.
Yeah, it's impressive. I'm not knocking it. It's like not being dismissive. It's just like, yeah. It's like Mike Vrabel. Hey, now he's a coach. Remember, he was a linebacker, but he was always in there on those Patriots 2-point conversions.
Yeah, have you ever heard that story? I know. Well, sorry, I won't even talk about the story now because we're almost about to leave. So.
Well, but we're at lock.
Okay, well then I'm giving you the story here. So I don't know what I was watching. It was like a week ago, and it was Tom Brady talking about Vrabel. And Vrabel one time went in. He's open in the end zone for the Patriots. He's waving his hands up in the air, and Brady doesn't throw him the ball. And Vrabel walks back to the line, and he's like, Tom, why don't you throw me the ball? And Tom's like, I will never throw you the effing ball again if you raise your hands like that at me. Blah, 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 blah. I throw the ball to whoever the hell I want. Blah, 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 blah. So it was probably the funniest thing I've ever heard, because Tom Brady said it with such a straight face that it was hilarious.
That's good. All right. In 57 games, Patrick Ricard has 30 targets for 23 catches. He had 2 for 15 on Monday Night Football. Oh. We may not see him again. Do that compared to last year. He had 9 catches last year for 45 yards and a touchdown. I would roll the dice with Freeman, and we'll just explain this because I don't want to be completely cavalier on that. Freeman may see a few more opportunities. It's not going to be many. This is the old Ben Ross. I need 2 things to go right. I need somehow one of the backs to screw up. I need Freeman to get an opportunity to be on the field, and then we really need 3, and he needs to get the ball. Yeah. That's 3 tough asks for Ricard. We're basically saying the same thing. We already know he's not going to be a major contributor. When he is on the play, a lot of times he doesn't even go out in the routes. He blocks. And, we just mentioned his career, 30 targets, 23 catches, 119 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's like, it's almost like a Vrabel to bring it all the way back. It's not. This isn't horrible. He's definitely going to be in the league for several more years, but he doesn't even really get an opportunity, every game.
Yeah.
If that. All right, we're done. Nice. Oh man, we're gonna have to leave now because the sex bots found us.
Yeah, okay. No, I had to delete their message.
Yeah, you got that. Thank you. That's all. That's all.
I got them out of here.
So perfect. So with that, where can everybody follow you on Twitter, Nick?
You can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY because fantasy does not fit on Twitter for some reason. It's too long. So NotoriousFNTSY. I tweet very angrily about the Dolphins, as well as about fantasy football. So hope 2 is okay. That's all I got to say here. Thank you guys, everyone, for saying the nice things, as well as Darrell for telling us that we suck. I really appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. It's okay. You get the opportunity here, and you know what? You got to take the tomatoes when they get thrown at you. It happens from time to time. All right, we are going to wrap this one up, but thank you everybody for watching. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. Reminder, you can utilize the promo code Awesemo, and they will match you up to your first $100 deposit. That money comes out first when you make your first contest entries. Thank you to Tyler, the producer. With that, gamers, good luck.